Just Eff It. Hi, I'm Romy.
Hi, and I'm Carla.
And together we are the EFFing
Madres.
Madres. We are here to invite you guys into stories of some inspiring madres
who have changed their lives through an Eff It moment. So here we go. Just Eff It.
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday.
Monday motivation, Monday madre. And I was thinking, Carla, recently a case of the Mondays because I've been having a case of the Mondays.
Okay. I'm sure plenty of people have the case of the Mondays.
Yeah. It's like, I know we're here to motivate and have like inspiration on a Monday, but I think it's also good to recognize that Mondays can be really challenging and it might be the most time that we need to be reminded.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's why it's Monday motivation as well.
Yeah.
Camaraderie Mondays to help like get us set up for the week.
Yeah. And
right?
I've been needing it. But for everyone tuning in for the first time, I'm Romy. This is Carla. We are the Eff It Madres, and we are two mamas who are in the midst of our Eff It moment. An Eff It moment being some life-changing thing that you did, are doing, want to do, failed at doing, got to get back up and try again, but really said Eff it and went after something exciting, scary, challenging, whatever it may be for you and how it affected your family.
Yes, well said. And they are, hopefully these moments motivate other moms out there who are on the brink of theirs or wanting to find theirs, because, you know, it can be really rough going through these Eff It moments. And that's the whole point, right? The journey. Yes, it's very hard, but at the end of it, people, it's worth it. It's worth it. So
it is.
Like all these mom stories, like at the end of all of their struggles, they are in much better places. So, yeah.
Well said. Well, who is our madre for today? Who's coming and joining us?
So her name is Kathleen Carter. I met her through a virtual mom meeting, business meeting thing, and her Eff It moment basically was when she realized her marriage was over. She had done a lot of sacrifices in her marriage and she wasn't valued. And she decided to start fresh by getting a divorce, quitting her job, starting a new business, and moving to a place where she wanted to live and raise her kids. So she had like one Eff It moment after the other, after the other, after the other. And it's like that whole snowball effect that we talked about, right? So I'm curious to hear her go into detail about it because that sounds like a lot to go through. One right after the other. So
it's one of those things though, once you start, like you said, they kind of just start happening and then new things present themselves and you're already in this bucket momentum that you're like, well, fuck this, fuck that, fuck it all. And you just keep going.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that she quit her job, started a new career, and moved somewhere else already. I mean, I'm experiencing two of those things. And I'm like, oh my God. And she went through a divorce and all of those things. So, wow. I'm very curious to see how she handled that because that sounds really intense.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. So, I'm excited to hear.
All right. I'm going to bring her in just a second. Okay, everyone. We have Kathleen Carter here. Thank you for joining us. And we're just going to jump right into the questions.
Great.
Ready? Mm-hmm. Okay. So when did you decide to just Eff It and why?
So I think my Eff It moment kind of came in 2017. It became pretty clear that my marriage was over at that point, and I was a full-time working mom, 2 little kids, exhausted, burnout, felt like I had made all these compromises to be where I was at in my marriage and in my family life. And when it was clear that none of that seemed to really matter, I basically said, fuck it, and was ready to just be done with compromising and was ready to just do what I wanted to do.
Yeah. Wow. That's intense.
Yeah.
With 2 little kids too. I mean, yeah. And then I know in your Eff It moment, you had also said something about moving to some place that you really wanted to live to. Where did you move to?
Yeah. So part of all of the compromise that I had, you do that. And I did it with my eyes wide open and willingly. And, as part of what I did for my marriage was moving to a place I didn't want to live. And it made my commute for work. I was working in Manhattan, living in upstate New York. It was a 4-hour round trip commute. And I was still, mommy and wife and all these things as soon as I walked in the door, and I had nothing left in my tank in all the ways by the time I walked in that door, and my day wasn't over yet. So I wanted to move closer to the city. And I also, when I said F it to that part of my personal life, I also realized I should really say F it to my professional life as well, because I had made a lot of compromises there, and I just was sort of a shell of myself at that point in every area of my life. So I not only decided my marriage was over, but I quit my job and decided I was going to start my own business and move to where I wanted to live and raise my kids the way I wanted to raise them all along. So I did all of that.
Did you have something set up for you, for anyone listening? Like, did you have a job set up for you? Did you understand where you were going to go? Like, did you know everything was there when you decided to really just say fuck it to so much at once?
Yeah. So I quit the job that I was working at, but went and did the same job just for myself. I'm a book publicist, and I was working for a firm, and was the only firm, and I learned so much and it was amazing, but I was giving all of myself there as well, and knew that I couldn't start this new chapter of my life really being the one taking care of my kids and also working in that capacity. So I went on to still be a book publicist, but just for myself. And since I had been doing it for so many years already, I had relationships. It was a little bit of a risk. I mean, I had hoped that the people that I had worked with and for over a decade would still want to work with me. But that was a little bit of a gamble in terms of all of that.
I think it's just so important because so many of us have been in that position where we want to just fucking leave our job, or we're not happy in our marriage, and we're sacrificing our, like you said, we're a shell of a human for our companies, our partners, our children, and like we don't always know what is next, and that's where we get so like trapped, and so it's so inspiring when you hear other women, and other mothers, which is like what it is, because you've got your family just being like, I'm done.
Yeah. I mean, what's so interesting to me, because I'm not a risk taker by nature, is like, I just had this laser focus and this clarity that it was like, I was actually not afraid. And I should preface it by saying I have a wonderful and supportive family. And I'm sure if I had fallen off and not been successful in starting my business, there'd be someone there to help me. Like I'm one of 4 children. I've got amazing parents. I'm fortunate in the way that a lot of people aren't. But it was otherwise just like a pretty huge risk. But I was so angry and ready to just do my life for me and my kids that I just went full force into it.
I hear it a lot in these podcasts that anger is actually a great emotion because it fires you up. It creates passion and action. So it's great that you actually got to that point, because it got you to fucking make these huge changes. I was just telling Romy before you jumped on that when I was telling about your F it moment, like, it was like a snowball effect. You got divorced and you changed your career, you started a business, and you moved somewhere else. And I was telling her that I'm like literally just doing 2 of those things right now. And I'm like, how the hell has she been able to do all of that? Could like one right after the other. Well, I mean, all tangled up at the same time, I guess, but like one started and then the next and then the next. And it's just like, I mean, that's, I guess, the next question. I'll let you jump in to ask the next one, but I can't wait to know how you felt about it, because I'm like, what the fuck?
It would go right into basically, what did you do about it? Like when you had these moments, what did you do about it?
Yeah. So I think, the first thing that I did just when I knew the marriage was over, it was like, all right, so let's go to mediation. Let's get divorced. Let's get this done as quick as we can do it. So then we can move on to the next thing. Like it was a snowball. It was a progression. It was like, here's the order of events that need to unfold in order for me to get to where I need to be. And truly it was it was rage that helped me to get through each of those steps. And once each was passed, it felt like a lightning. And it just felt like, all right, I'm one step closer. I'm one step closer. And it was like, as cliche as it sounds, it was day by day. Because there were days where I was like, what the fuck am I doing? But once one day would go by and I would get all the shit done. And it was like, all right, forward progress. So yeah, I think I think rage is really what helped me to, and I'm sort of like a type A check the boxes type person. So that combination, and seeing sort of like a light at the end of the tunnel in terms of like, I'm so miserable here, it can't get worse. That's how I felt. I really felt so isolated and uninspired and alone that I knew it couldn't really get much worse. I didn't want to see what worse would have been for me.
Okay, so that basically answers the next question, which,
Yeah.
How did it make you feel? So essentially the rage, did you feel that this rage, like, did you get this feeling and this emotion because you were essentially at like your bottom, like a rock bottom for you at that point of your life?
I think for me, like, realizing what my marriage actually was at the end there was like an awakening for me of what my life had actually been and the story that I was telling myself my life was. And so I think it was kind of a reckoning with myself where I was like, holy shit, like, has everyone else seen this? Have I just been like telling myself that everything's okay and that this is healthy and that this is normal and okay for a while now? So I think that's sort of, I think I was living in a version of a bottom and just wasn't aware of it because I couldn't accept that. I couldn't see that. I was too close to the problems to see that. I didn't want to admit failure in my marriage. I didn't want to admit failure in my profession. So I just sort of had a blinders on, I think.
I'm curious to know when you were married and you moved to the place that you said you didn't want to live, did
Yeah.
you get an inkling then about moving to that place inside of you, like, ugh, I don't really want to move here, but I guess I need. Okay, so
Yeah.
it was going against what you were
My gut.
feeling. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
I think that will always catch up with you. And I think as we get older and we make these decisions and we start to like live in them, when we're like, man, I didn't trust my gut. I didn't trust my instincts. I went against what my core was telling me. It's
Yeah.
almost exactly the opposite of what an F it moment is, because I feel like an F it moment is when you are so aligned with your truth that you don't
Yeah.
fucking care,
Right.
And it's when we're going against those and we're forcing things to happen eventually as women, as we get older, as mothers, as partners, it will sneak up on us.
Yeah.
And that effort moment is like building in you. Then you get to what you said, which I'm happy you used that word. Then it's rage that's got you like moving.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think for me, the confusion there was like, I'm trying to be a good partner in not everything having to be about where I want to be. And I was avoiding having a fight that I thought would blow things up because I was being difficult or demanding or my standards were too high as to where I wanted to be. And so I think because messages that we receive about how to be a good wife are a little fucked up and sometimes very confusing. And
Totally.
so I was going against my gut because I think my gut is to not be a good spouse. Like, I don't know, like it just was like, this is not going to be my fight. Like, all right, I'll move to where you want to move to. Fine, I'm being a good wife. And I was fucking miserable in that space.
Well, I think that comes to my next question here, because so much of the time we think if I'm being a good mom, a good wife by society's standards and the way they've painted this picture that we're supposed to look as women and wives, then everyone in the family is going to be happy.
Right.
So that would lead me into the question of, when you said fuck it, what did it do for you and your family?
It changed our lives in like all the good ways. Like, it's sad, I guess, that there's not a mom and a dad living in the house, but my ex-husband and I have a very amicable relationship. My kids are very happy. We live in a wonderful place where they, have all, opportunities and experiences, and we're still close to all of our family. And it's just been awesome in all of the ways. Like, I have a social life now. I have friends. I didn't have friends before. Like, that was a big thing. I'm a pretty social person, and I had zero friends after living in a place for 7 years. Zero. Not one. And I've lived here for 3 years during COVID, and I've got dozens of friends. Like, so it has been life changing in all the greatest ways, honestly.
I would jump in and just say, on that note, as someone who's gone through a divorce and, is co-parenting really in a healthy way, it's been the best thing for my family. And that's not promoting divorce, because nobody wants that. But if you are a woman that is so miserable or not happy or things aren't working, the other side, as scary as it can actually be really healthy for your family.
Yes.
And so I just really appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah. And like, the families can look all different ways, and you can still love each other as a family unit, but you just don't have to be married to be that family unit, and respect each other. And it still can be it doesn't have to look the traditional way to still be a great family. And we've really tried to drive that home with our kids.
Same.
It's very important. Yeah.
Same. And that is so beautiful that we're able to start creating families in a new light.
Yeah. Agree. 100%.
I mean, to stay in marriages longer than they need to be, like that. I mean, I'm a product of divorce. So like, I couldn't wait for my parents to divorce because it was just so miserable. So like, if that's something that someone feels, it is the best decision for the family. Because it is like your kids, like kids see all of that. They feel it. They're pick up on that stuff. And so if you want your kids to have like a healthier relationship with everyone, it's best to split. And who cares what other people think? Fuck that.
Exactly. Because those people aren't people that you need in your life anyway, then. And it's just like excess baggage you're shedding.
Yes.
If the relationship between you and your partner is healthier by not being married, isn't that the goal, is to have a healthy relationship and have our children view a healthy relationship, as opposed to, let me watch my parents be the most toxic they can be, but they're married. So
right. Yeah, totally. No.
I'm curious, timeline wise, when did you leave your job to start your own business?
So it was like 2000. So 2017 was when my marriage was ending. And then I sort of decided, like, okay, so this is what I want to do next. So the marriage, once that was behind me, I started figuring out how to start a business, which took a little while. So it was 2018 when I announced my business. And there was a little bit of transition time because, again, I was doing the same job, just leaving a company and starting my own. And my former boss, who's also my mentor, was wonderful about it. Knew what I was going through, was very supportive of my decision. So it was 2018 when I launched my business. So it was basically like a year later that I started the business. And then the year after that is when 2019 is when I moved. So it kind of was like a year for each thing.
Wow. That is some badass shit, man. Like that is just so much that you've gone through and that you've been able to do that. And you are saying that you're in such a better place now, even though that was some crazy stuff that you went through, an emotional roller coaster. You and your family are so much better off now and so much happier. And your business is probably, when you're that way, I think when people are in a good space, they attract good things. Businesses flourish when people are just like in a good energy. Like, you attract that abundance. So I'm curious now that you're in this. Do you have fears that come up for you now? And the second leg to that is, how do you stay in your effort momentum moving forward and not falling back to any fears that you used to have?
Yeah. So definite huge fears because I'm, supporting my children and pretty firmly responsible for them in all the ways. So I'm constantly afraid of failing, and failure means not being able to support my children. And so I think what drives me is that fear I want to be financially secure for my children. I want to be able to provide for them. I'm also the product of divorce. I know what that feels like when one of the parents is not as financially stable as the other parent, maybe, and I don't want that to happen to my kids. So I think the fear drives me to continue to work and to continue to sort of be in the effort moment. I'm also someone who suffers from like terrible imposter syndrome. So I just always feel like I'm not good enough. So I think I'm just constantly living in that space. And that's what keeps me going. Is it's like I'm only as good as, you know how they say you're only as happy as your least happy child. I feel like I'm only as good as my least happy client, if that exists, you know what I mean? Or like the project I wish we're getting more right now. Like I'm only as good as that one, not the one that's, you know, on the New York Times bestseller list or getting on national TV. Like the one that's kind of hard right now is as good as I am. And I think that's what keeps me in it. I'm never quite really out of it.
I mean, you know, I don't know if you've listened to, I mean, I listen to a lot of those motivational podcasts and they talk about like how fear, we need to, you know, get rid of our fears and stuff. I don't think you ever really can, but honestly, in this situation, it sounds like your fears is your tool. Your fear is what's keeping you motivated and getting up every day and doing what you're doing with fire and passion. And so, you know, I don't think that fears are always a negative thing, because if you didn't have them, maybe you wouldn't be as motivated to do it. So it's an interesting thing to think about.
Yeah. I think if I were content, it'd be a problem.
Totally. And I think when you are content is when you're not moving, you know, forward. And I can absolutely relate. So I know that there's going to be a lot of moms listening. As a single mom, you know, as somebody who takes care of myself and my, you know, on do it on my own, it's fear for me too. And I know Carla knows that. Like the fear of not having it or providing is why sometimes I just keep going. I just keep going and going and going, because I'm like, if I slow down,
right,
what's going to happen? And also, I feel what you said, and I'm glad you said that. Like, I don't want to not be able to provide on the level of which her father can provide. You know, I don't want to fall short in that. I want to be able to keep up.
Yeah.
And maybe that does fuel me.
Yeah.
You know, into moving. And sometimes we take those things in life and they do move. They move us.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I totally relate to that. Your story is so inspiring, and I know so many are going to relate to it. And I think it's important in this space, again, for a lot of us women who are unhappy or don't know what's on the other side, or are sitting there listening and going, fuck, I'm not happy. I'm not happy in my job. I'm not happy in my marriage. I feel like a shell as well. Hearing someone's story and knowing that on the other end, there is joy or peace or success or movement is what so many of us need to hear, which is why we have this space. Yeah. So that would lead me to the last questions of like, what advice would you give a woman listening?
Yeah. So, I mean, I should preface this by saying I know that I like came into this situation with a little bit of privilege, right? Just having a little bit of comfort and knowing that I had a support system. But I would say, despite that, I really ignored my gut. And I think we underestimate those gut feelings. And I just would say to trust those feelings, because if you're ignoring them, and I think one of you said this earlier, it's going to catch up to you. And everyone should be able to live the fire, like live the life that they, whether they're fueled by happiness or rage or curiosity, whatever it is, be able to do that and listen to themselves and be true to themselves. So that's what I would say. I mean, I just feel like for a really long time, I was ignoring a lot of feelings and red flags. And I think we should just really be more in tune with ourselves and give ourselves enough credit to trust those feelings.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. I mean, I know for me personally, when I've ignored it, it's always come back to bite me in the ass. And so like, it really is a tool. We all are born with it. We can all actually like work on making it stronger. There's skills to do that. But like that initial feeling when something is just off is what you need to pay attention to, because it is yourself telling you, don't do that. That is wrong follow
Yeah.
your gut. So yeah, I 100% agree with that advice.
Yeah. I think
Great
one
advice.
other thing I should say is like, don't be afraid of like what other people are going to think of you when you go down that path. If you think like your parents are going to be upset because you're getting divorced, or your friends are going to like, don't, just do what you need to do for you. Don't worry. Don't feel like, oh, I can't make a mistake. I can't fuck up, because it's in the end, you're fucking up right now. Like, start over. Like,
Yeah.
That is
I
one
just,
area I do not struggle with. I don't give a fuck what anyone thinks, but I know that that is so important as well, to just take yourself out of like, what are people going to view me as? What the fuck does it matter?
Right. But it's so many
so many people.
people that will live their lives according to what other people think. And it's so sad.
That sounds like prison.
It does sound like prison. I think the older you get, the more aware of that. At least I think we can speak for ourselves. Like the older
Yeah.
we've gotten, we can say like, fuck that, it's not worth it, because no one really actually cares.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like there are some people that do live their lives till the day they die, living it on someone else's terms, and that is just sad.
Yeah.
It's
So
such a short life, you guys.
don't care what other people think. They are not living your life. You are living your life.
Right. Exactly. Actually,
I mean, unless you're paying my bills and you're in control of every aspect of my life, please don't tell me what the fuck to do. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
well, Kathleen, we are so happy that you joined us. And I'm curious, are there any spaces that people can follow you, go to, anything you want to promote or share that you're working on?
yeah, sure. I mean, I'm a book publicist, so I just, people, please read. But I'm on Instagram. Read the books.
Please read.
Please try to read. I'm on Instagram at KCCPR. So if you want to see what I'm working on or bookish stuff, you can follow me there, because I'm posting there a lot.
Okay,
Awesome.
awesome.
And we're so grateful for you.
Yeah.
Thank you
Thank
so
you so
much for
much.
your story.
Thank you so much. I love what you guys are doing. It's amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, I think we did it selfishly for ourselves because we needed the motivation, but our goal is to hopefully help other women feel this motivation, because we all need it, especially as moms, man. Like, I
Totally.
think you can get so stagnant, like doing the day to day, every day. It's tough. So hopefully.
I think it's good to have a group of cheerleading moms being like, just fucking go. Just fucking throw it in the air.
Absolutely.
We are moms who have done it. You're going to be okay. We're all going to be okay. And sometimes when your family and everyone around you is telling you, no, 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 you need to hear it from other women. You need to hear it from other moms that go, fuck it,
Yeah.
And that's ultimately what I feel like we're trying to help move.
I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to share.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. And so this is where we're going to say,
Just F it.